Good evening and welcome to this month's edition of Business Chunautiyaan on the platform of Rata. For those who would not know, Rata is a 72-year-old organization, one of the oldest possible in the country, in the field of HVAC and R, and focusing on the development of MSMEs specifically. We connect to more than 6,000 MSMEs across the country, and with having a base chapters across 13 chapters, 13 regional committees spread across the whole country. A membership that we encourage basically would be manufacturers, dealers, traders, consultants, contractors, importers, project management companies, anyone who's engaged with the HVAC in our trade as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as an MSME. The purpose is to ensure that the businesses who are engaged in this industry manage to grow well, grow positively, grow productively, do new things, learn new things, network with each other, whatever are the problems that we are facing in our lives with the government. We need more support from the government, or we need changes in some policies. This is the platform that reaches out, connects with the government at different levels, and ensures that somehow they listen to us as a larger platform and look forward to implementing some of those changes that we want. We are also there into a lot of training and learning, and an event like today, what we're doing in Business Chunautiyaan, also ensure that people are able to listen into some industry leaders, share their own practices as business owners. They come out from right to the bottom of their heart as to what challenges, opportunities they faced. So all about learning, knowledge sharing, interacting with each other, networking, gaining business, getting knowledge about things like Tally or GST or various other platforms that help us do better business in our lives together. So this is the program today that we're having on ventilation, and I request Ajit to kindly come on board and give us a little bit of intro on the specific talk of today.
Thanks, Vishal. Fabulous. Vishal, this is the 9th edition of the Business Chunautiyaan program that we're doing. And what's amazing is this idea was born out of COVID. I mean, when everyone was cribbing about nothing happening, in the month of April, we picked up that whole challenge of COVID, and we actually came up with a program called as How Do We Tackle Challenges Together? And starting April, every month on Saturday at 5 o'clock, we've been doing this program. And this Business Chunautiyaan is pretty much our flagship program. And and every time we've been actually bringing up one challenge, very specific to the industry, and we've been open about it, and we're talking about it. The prime reason why Business Chunautiyaan came up was, there are a lot of challenges that we talk about, which we are very comfortable sitting in the privacy of our office cabins or our houses or over a drink, and we are ready to talk freely about it. And that doesn't solve the problem, right? How do we fix some of these problems? Some of these problems can be fixed when we start talking about in the open. And as entrepreneurs, if we can identify a problem, that's good enough, because we are problem solvers, and that's what we are good at. And the whole idea of Business Chunautiyaan is to reach out to each specific parts of our industry, bring out these problems out into the open, and make it an industry discussion. And that goes a long way. It must be a slow process, but it's still a beginning. And the optimism that we have and what we have learned from the last 8 programs that we have done is that people start talking about it. They start saying, hey, they're bringing this out as a topic and discussing it among themselves. There will be a change. Because for a change to happen, you don't need 100% of the people to change. You just need the majority of them to think alike. And that's what the whole effort is at Business Chunautiyaan every month. So today we're touching upon, we've done air conditioning, we've done refrigeration, we've done a lot of commercial issues. And today we're going to talk about ventilation, pretty much an ignored part of our industry. And I guess the COVID has brought focus into that. And what's ventilation all about? What are the difficulties? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? Let me introduce you to Vishal and me. Let's introduce our panelists. And I think we have a absolutely fabulous panel here today. So our first panelist, who comes on board, is Mr. Sachin Maheshwari. Welcome to the show, Sachin.
Yeah, hi, and good evening to everyone.
Thanks. So Sachin is the managing director of Carrier Group of Companies and Nicotra, who are pioneers in wide range of air distribution, air management, air purification, fire and sound control, and ventilation products, along with aluminum extrusion business and lithium-ion batteries. Thank you so much, Sachin, for taking time out for being with us today.
Welcome, Sachin. Next on board, we have Mr. Vinay Bothra. Vinay, incidentally, is the managing director of a company called Spectrum Filtration. It's a major manufacturer into industrial air filtration systems, a very leading name in the world of air filters and air filtration systems. Spectrum deals with a complete range of technology-intensive and customer-specific products and services. Welcome, Vinay, to this Rata platform of Business Chunautiyaan.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me. And we hope we talk about clean air as much as we do about ventilation. Look forward to this chat here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay, for coming on board. Our next panelist is Mr. P.A. Prabhu. P.A. Prabhu is the co-founder of HVAC Systems, a company dedicated to kitchen ventilation systems. The company has delivered more than 100 commercial kitchen ventilation systems pan-India for star hotels and IT building ventilations. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Ajit and Vishal, for having us here.
Absolutely. We only eat what you normally take care of, Prabhu. So, and next on board, we have Nishant, a dear friend, Nishant Gupta. He is the director at Degree Day Private Limited. Very interesting name, I must say, Degree Day. Specializes in the manufacturing of energy-efficient clean air technology products for the HVAC market. His company has been involved in the field of evaporative cooling solution for more than 2 decades across the country for various applications, apart from many other businesses that he has for consulting, contracting, and prefab duct manufacturing. So welcome, Nishant, and hope to hear good things from you.
Thank you, Shal. Pleasure here. Look forward to a very interactive and learning session.
Thank you, Nishant. And the panel is incomplete without bringing the contracting perspective onto the whole business. And we're happy to have Mr. Dinesh here. Mr. Dinesh is co-founded KNND Associates, and he has been a career partner for more than 8 to 10 years. And his company is among the leading HVAC contractors in Bangalore, which is now spreading its branches across India. Thank you, Mr. Dinesh, for joining us today.
Thanks, Ajit. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thanks for having the last but not the least contracting fraternity on the forum. And definitely, I'm sure people would like to hear some perspective from our side, who make all these other panelists' dreams into reality.
It was not our intent to bring you at the end, don't worry.
All right, so let's deep dive straight into the discussions today. We've got a 90 minutes of Power Pack. So we hope that a lot of the issues that we've been talking and comes across. So the first thing I want to start with is Mr. Sachin. Sachin, we would like to hear from you more about your company, what you've been doing, and during the COVID times, what is it that you've been actually doing differently? Tell us a little about the company and what you've done in the last 9 months.
Sure. I think you already gave a brief synopsis of what I do in your introduction, but I would further substantiate on that. We are a 30-year-old company, and with a very diverse product portfolio. On the HVAC front, we broadly operate under 3 verticals. The first one is the air distribution, smoke and fire control, which mostly talks about your grills, diffusers, fire dampers. Then we have an air management group where we do the chill water, FCUs, the high walls, the cassettes. We do inline fans, we do air purification, the LVLS fans. We do the multi-stage cooling. And then the third vertical is the ventilation fan business, where we have a joint venture with the Nicotra Gebhardt Group. Other than this, we have 2 non-HVAC in our business. One of them is the aluminum extrusion. We make aluminum sections and profiles for various kind of industries. And very recently, we ventured into lithium-ion battery manufacturing. So that's the new baby from our side. So the COVID times have been challenging, I think, for every business. And one of our core business segment, which is the commercial buildings, has got a severe beating. And I expect that it's going to take some amount of time before it starts recovering. But as there is a common saying that that every adversity creates some opportunities. So I would try to focus more on that. And I would say during this COVID time, we found many such opportunities. So in terms of market segment, we got a very good response from healthcare and the warehousing space, which I think has been booming during this time. The ventilation bus that got created also led to some of the demand. We got demand for bigger fresh air dampers, some air purification. In fact, we redesigned some of our products, such as constant, fresh air or exhaust units fitted with a UV light or a HEPA filter, pre-cooling with IDEC. Okay. Also on the fan side of the business, we got a lot of inquiries from the unitary companies who so far have been relying more, I would say, on the Chinese import. But I think this COVID period made them realize that they need to start looking for local manufacturing and local sourcing. So this Atmanirbhar aspect is indeed kicking in. Also, some momentum on the export side of it, I would say. I think people are looking at India now as an alternate source. So still initial movement, I would say, but yes, a positive momentum. So personally speaking, I believe it is indeed a good time to invest in terms of to be future ready, because sooner or later the momentum is going to come back. In fact, we made a sizable investment during this time where we diversified ourselves into lithium-ion battery manufacturing for EVs, for solar and UPS power backup. Even when we talk to our foreign partners, Nikotra, they seem to be now more bullish about India. They feel that some of this the China business is going to come to India, and India is going to do well. So, which is again a positive sign how the international market is reading the Indian story. Also, we took the spare time to strengthen our I think our home in terms of which we never used to get time in terms of strengthening our engineering data, our marketing collaterals, data, testing, training. So overall, I would say COVID times have not been that bad and gave us new opportunities.
That's amazing. I mean, someday we would like to hear from you what motivated you to move from HVAC into lithium batteries. That's one thing. And that's an entrepreneurial story that we would like to hear. Let's move ahead. I like to bring in Vinay here. Vinay, you know about filtration is something that is discussed there. And we'd like to hear what's the innovations and tell us about your company and how you tried out, gone through this entire 9 months process of COVID. Let's hear that.
Sure. So spectrum filtration primarily is into filtration for HVAC, of course, pharmaceutical clean rooms. Our biggest business is in processes. So whether it's electronic manufacturing, automobile manufacturing, or any kind of precision manufacturing that needs clean air. That's our biggest business, and that's where we get most of our revenue. HVAC has been interesting for us for a long time, but primarily with quite a few disappointments in the past, because we felt that HVAC does not use high quality air filtration. But we have been an active player. To our surprise, during COVID times, the pickup and the awareness about air filtration became very acute. We've had inquiries from people who have never bothered to, look at the air filters. They are now looking at air filters in a very concentrated way, looking at ways where they can get to MERV 13, 14. The word MERV 13, 14 has come to everybody's attention. I think thanks to a lot of work done by Vishal, the presentation which was published in the middle of Corona, that helped bring out awareness. There is still hesitation in people in investing in air filtration, but there is a lot of active interest. And I think the news coming in with all the time talking about pollution control has heightened the need for clean air indoors. So people no more talk about simply air conditioning as in cooling, but they also are very aware about the quality of air. And with that, I think people are more and more interested in air quality monitoring. Just a while ago, Vishal was mentioning that he took an air quality monitor with him to a hotel room, and that's very interesting. I think more and more people are interested in knowing the quality of the air, not just in terms of temperature, but in terms of what the air has, invisible, whether it's gas or particulate. So we've seen heightened interest from the HVAC industry in the last few months. Much of that may not have necessarily converted to business, but the interest is heightened. And we hope that grows and people are able to get better indoor air quality. That's our hope primarily.
Amazing, Vinay. In fact, this is something that I'm sure Vishal will actually get on to the next line, where he's going to go a little industry specific and get to know more about your business and your inputs on this industry. Great. We have a lot of viewers around here today. We've got some international viewers also who's been actually joining us from Jakarta, Indonesia. And this is all part of our most of these people are joining from the Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Trade Association Facebook group. That group has about 2,500 people, and this is being simulcasted live into that group. So we have a lot of people across the country. Thank you very much for joining us. I like to bring in Mr. Prabhu. Mr. Prabhu, you've been part of kitchen ventilation, and we noticed that fabulous video that you shared on your social media platform on how
Yeah.
how it is just completely ignored. So tell our viewers about your company and what is it that you've been doing different. You have a way of communicating the
Yeah.
challenges that your industry faces. So over to you.
Yeah. We started in 1998, Ajit. And what had happened was we were into small-time contracting and central plant maintenance. And whenever we did some restaurants, there was a huge issue that always happened: cooling nahi aa raha, आपका cooling bus nahi ho raha hai. And then we realized that all the cooling was getting, all the air conditioned air was getting sucked into the kitchen. And that is when we flipped sides and, we thought there is a very niche area, an ignored area, and a gray area. And we jumped in, we changed sides and we started on kitchen ventilation in 2000. And it's been 20 years now, and we've been very lucky to have good customers, I would say. To start with, we started with the legendary Paradise in Hyderabad. So that was really shot in the arm for us, and we really grew after that. When we said we did for Paradise, we didn't have to sell anything more than that. And by now we have almost finished about 1,000 kitchens. I think you said 100 kitchens. We have done 1,000 kitchens, small and big, of course. We started with the Darshanis, graduated to restaurants, then went to 3-star hotels, and now we have covered all the brands in 5-star hotels. And what we do is, when it comes to 5-star hotels, we are into supply of kitchen hoods. We have moved from a project company to a product company. Hitherto, till about, I think 2005, these 5-star hotels used to only import the kitchen hoods. So we were the ones who understood, because we had a background of air conditioning. We developed the hoods as per international standards of SMACNA and NFPA 96. We did a lot of study. And, what I want to say, we came out with our own design of our hoods. And people have accepted it well. And in fact, I was carrying a slip of all the top brands. And Marriott was one which was eluding me for almost about 7 years. And last year we have been able to break into Marriott, because Marriott has got fantastic standards. They are very, very particular about their what they buy for the kitchen, especially for the safety. And kitchen, actually, people don't understand that one of the biggest fire hazards in a hotel is the kitchen. And Marriott would not take any of it when it comes to kitchen. So once we are in Marriott, we now feel, confident that we are ready for exports. We have done to a few countries in Middle East, but now I think we can really, go bang on and make India proud as far as kitchen ventilation is concerned. Coming to COVID, something very interesting happened, Ajit. We were doing UV hoods, that is hoods fitted with UV. This is what I think we are the first in India to do that. Till then, it was always imported. And one of our clients, one Almond House, there is a organization, this sweet house called Almond House, but very, very, proactive and very, very modern thinking guy. So he said, you did something with UV, right? So I want something to do with UV for my kitchens. And I was wondering what happened. And it was peak COVID time. We opened on May 10th, and he called us on May 15th. And then he said, I want to sterilize my whole kitchen. And we built, we put UV in his AHUs, we put UVs in his ceiling, and then we also made parcels, and this caught up so well. And what happened was he put it in the video. When he promoted when he opened, he put it in the video, and then we had huge rush of, these products, and COVID kept us busy. We were wondering whether we are into, kitchen ventilation, or we are getting into something totally different. But, as COVID fizzled out, slowly these things also fizzled out, and we are back to normal. We had a huge inventory of, manufactured hoods lying in March, which took time for liquidation. So that was a rough patch we went through, but God has been kind, and I think none of the projects, we thought projects will go for a toss, but projects have really picked up. And we could pull on May, June, July with that, and from July onwards, the next our own regular thing started. But what we realized is our capabilities of our manpower was built up because of the other UV products that we did. We never made anything other than hoods. So now suddenly we made cabinets, we made boxes, we made light fittings, so many things. So the boys also enjoyed doing it, and we also, this was a great time for us to hone our skills. And then again, another thing what happened was, now a lot of people don't want to have their banquets in air-conditioned areas. So they want something in half air-conditioned areas. So what do we do? Or maybe in gardens, but they don't want the smoke. So we have developed something called a front cooking station, a mobile cooking station. So this was a product of, we had it in the mind, but we never had the, push to really develop it. And this product has come out, it is a gift of COVID to us, I would say. And we have been able to do this, and people are we are getting very good response from the market.
Yeah, I'm going to push. Vishal is going to ask you some more industry-specific questions on what has happened. But I must also share one of the important opportunities. You spoke about Marriott, and moment you finished speaking about Marriott and how you got that as a client, one of the Marriott engineers is actually listening to us on Facebook on our Rata India page, and he's kind of liked it. So I can see it from behind. I know him, so he's kind of liked it as soon as you mentioned him. So awesome. So that's good. So
Marriott was a huge ego booster for us. We really felt that we have arrived.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, let's bring in Nishant. Hi, Nishant. So Nishant brings in a very interesting perspective. Nishant, you've seen all the big metro guys all around who've introduced themselves, but you come from a smaller town. You run a great company, and tell our viewers about your business and how you made it different from a different approach to the ventilation business. We'd like to hear from you.
Okay, thank you, Ajit. So, as you rightly mentioned, I come from the cleanest city of the country, Indore, and we have been working for almost 20 years on the degree day. I'm the second generation, of course, in this industry, but we started the moment I graduated, I completed my engineering. So it's been 20 years that I've been running this business, started from scratch. I remember we started from a small drawing room, and so lucky to be wherever I am now today. We have been a vertically integrated company. We started as a contracting company, although we wanted to manufacture from the day one when we started, but for some reasons we ventured into certain components, and then eventually we evolved into 3 vertical operations. One is related to design, so we take care of large level EPC consulting of large projects. We also are restricting our works to complete turnkey solutions for corporates, and we have more focus towards products. Coming to products, we have had always a segment of niche market that we had focused upon, and we try to work around clean room. So from clean room to pharmaceuticals, we also ventured into dust-free ventilation. Now, this is a little step ahead than what the conventional ventilation is. But believe me, there's a huge market, and I would urge all the listeners to consider this as a serious prospect. I asked you before the start of the event that what is the theme? And I believe at Rata, we always have been believing in sharing the knowledge. I would always invite and promote more people to enter in the market in whichever capacity that they would like to. And there's a huge, tremendous requirement in ventilation market. We have been always focusing on technical and challenging requirements. So we never, went around the conventional run-of-the-mill requirements of HVAC and R, but always trying to identify where is the niche market where we can run quality over quantity. That has been our basic theme since the time we started. And second is that we've been always very innovative. So coming back to our product lines, we were doing laminar airflows. I remember back in 2000 when doctors used to tell us that laminar airflow is not required, it is all marketing, and we can operate under a tree. That is the time from where we are talking today, where almost now tier 3, tier 4 city also holds a laminar flow. We developed textile duct back in 2002 and 3, and we are getting it weaved in those times, again ahead of the time. We were in hybrid evaporative cooling right from 2004-5 and did lot of installations in single stage and dual stage, while it became a buzzword, I believe, mostly after 2010 and 12. We started ductable coolers, which again we bought in Indian market somewhere in 2007-8, and since then, I mean, we are working very aggressively, and I believe we are one of the market leaders in that particular segment. We also developed something called a split air cooler, a very new concept a couple of years back. Our large part of product line consists of prefabricated metal ducts, modular evaporative coolers, split coolers, hybrid coolers, ABS air distribution products. And our mantra had been always to keep evolve and remain innovative. That is what we had been working around. COVID times was special for everyone, including us. We are not the exception. But as you rightly mentioned, and somebody else as well, that it's always good to be positive. So I was recalling the time somewhere in January when we were talking, and in China we had found that this is taking a big hit, and we are just discussing with somebody that it's good that has not reached to India, and otherwise it would have been difficult. And there you are in March end when the season actually starts for our kind of business, we were under lockdown. But thankfully, our diversified operation, vertical integration, and our long ethos helped us a lot to we actually started our operations right from 1st of May and handled a lot of warehouse projects across India during those times. We also developed some very high quality medical grade air purifiers as we had our core concepts in clean room in place. And we invested quality time to strategize and invested in building up our new factory, which is now ready and completely operational. So I always see the things very, very positive, and I believe if we are honest to our work, God would always be kind, and that's what you would hear probably with all the good people, those who are around. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nishant. That's fabulous. Fantastic. So I guess I'll let Vishal actually deep dive into those questions. Our last panelist, Mr. Dinesh, you would have heard everybody before you. They all sounded like COVID was an opportunity. We were waiting for it to happen. That COVID was so good that we innovated, we did very well. Is that the same case for you? Or as contractors, a situation has been bad? I'd like to hear from you.
Okay.
About your company, about what's happened in the last 9 months, everything.
Yeah, thanks, Ajit. First, I would like to tell about my company. I represent KN India Associates Private Limited, which is a leading HVAC contractor in the field. And we also have our group company, which is Duct India Private Limited, wherein we are into duct manufacturing of all sorts, be it rectangular, prefab, spiral, oval, everything. And basically KNND is a group of 5 people. Way back in 1996, we started. All the 5 of us were working for a company called Bartleby Engineers, wherein we were colleagues and like-minded people. When we had to think about future, we just thought of starting on our own. That is how we became contractors. Because there was dearth of contractors, or there were hardly finger count contractors those days, and qualified and educated contractors were scarce, hardly finger count those days. So that is when we thought it is ideal to get into contracting rather than switching over to any other large air conditioning firm. So that is the start of our journey. And since then, we haven't looked back, to be honest. God has been kind to us, and all 5 of us have been together since the last 30 years. And we have been together with each other more than with our married lives, to be precise. Okay. And basically, in KNND, when we have started the contracting, we had to have a tag along with us. That is where we associated with brands like Carrier, which was the #1 in the country, and we also graduated with respect with Carrier. We started selling their small window split ductable air conditioner, and then we have now been on to selling the total chiller and all the solutions that is available from Carrier, Toshiba, and their basket of products. And as far as contracting is concerned, that has been our basic strength totally. All 5 of us have different We have handled different verticals, to be precise. I used to handle service. One of my colleague, Mr. Pradeep, used to handle sales. Mr. Nagaraj had the experience of total projects. Mr. Basuraj had handled government projects. Naranappa had handled deductible projects. So it was a combination of all five, all verticals, whatever in HVAC industry. And when we started, it was again those days, 96 was a recession time. Everybody was laughing at us. People leaving a company like Bartley By, leaving such a job, a wonderful job, and starting on that to contracting. Those days it was only like uh, no engineers would venture into contracting those days. But again, resistance from the family, colleagues, friends, we started, and I think so. Our decision proved right. And now the life has come full circle. Why I'm saying this is because we have now passed on the mantle to second in line in our organization. The senior people of our organization are now running the show since last 1.5 years, and it's such a coincidence that they are exposed to in their first almost 1.5 years of time. They have been posed with the same problem of what we went into the recession, and this time it is recession plus pandemic. We have experienced recession 4 times in our life, but recession plus pandemic has been a really challenging time for our new guys who are leading the organization. Or we are with them hand holding. So we have handled very well, actually, to be honest. And I would like to congratulate my new team also who did work. In fact, when we had the March, I think so, the COVID thing started. First 1 month, obviously, it was totally lockdown. Fourth week of March or first week of April, we started getting panic calls from hospital customers. Basically, we majorly have hospital care customers, education industry. This is our basic forte. And when we started getting panic calls, it was very difficult in the initial days because the rules and regulations were hardly allowing us to travel. So we went ahead and tackled problems in Pune, Kerala, Tiruvalla, and also some parts of Hyderabad. It was a very, very challenging time, actually. In fact, some of the customers were ready to fulfill the COVID regulation requirement. Like if you have to travel, you need to get a permission from the end user who is inviting you for the works, and then you need to go through all the other formalities, fill up forms online, and then only people could travel. And for traveling also, all the modes of transport were banned, but we had to somehow, I mean, we really literally when we did COVID care project in Pune, it was I can say it was one of the most challenging for especially for movement of people and organizing for material. And we in fact got appreciation.
The Rata platform, in the Rata platform, we've always been talking about pure learning, like how you were talking about your entrepreneurial journey, how you challenged on the COVID, and how you're moving into the next generation. So over the last 9 months, we've done lots of programs on pure learning. That is, why don't we learn from each other and help the entrepreneurial ecosystem for the industry? And COVID has been a catalyst towards this. So Vishal, I'm going to hand it over to you now because you're going to deep dive. You are the architect of this event today. So you put on the beautiful panel together. So over to you. Let's deep dive into it and understand all about ventilation. So over to you.
Thanks, Ajit, and thanks to everyone for setting the tone of the evening quite nicely. Let me start with Sachin first. As you introduced yourself, Sachin, and we know all about you and your organization being one of the possibly oldest Indian-based manufacturer in the field of ventilation products. How have you seen the industry change, if at all it has changed? And I'm not talking about purely from a technology point of view. The whole approach of the business has changed over the last few years. Also, is innovation or technical superiority something which is being valued, or is it still primarily just a commodity or a price game that is happening out there in the field? You're mute, Sachin.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Vishal. So, talking about the ventilation industry or the mechanical ventilation industry, as we mentioned, it has actually not got its due prominence over the years. Possibly that we got lost between that H and AC, and probably I would urge Rata, we should now for some time start calling it as VHAC. And possibly some people believe that what is naturally available, why should it be paid for? Yeah, but the new designs of with the compact spaces that we have now, the weather conditions which are much harsher, you can't live away without mechanical ventilation. Okay, now I would say the ventilation, the first time we saw a movement coming in is when the fire compliance norms got kicked in. And that mandated use of basement ventilation fans, your lift well, your staircase specialization. So there was a momentum, and that continues to go. I see the compliances going up, reaching to tier 2, tier 3, and that has set, I would say, a big opportunity in the ventilation space. Then the second momentum we saw is from the IAQ awareness. And especially, I would say, when the pollution thing started kicking in, and it created a demand for your fresh air, your filtration. Though some people actually, took an extreme step that looking at pollution, they started minimizing their fresh air and the exhaust requirement without realizing that the most effective way to filter is to pressurize the building. Okay. Now this whole COVID aspect has given, I would say, further impetus to the whole ventilation, where now everybody's talking about higher fresh air rate to dilute the contaminants. Also, people have started talking about a good air distribution, which I believe has always been one of the most neglected topic. Nobody even cares about how that needs to take place. So all this, I believe, are positive steps for the ventilation industry. Now, if I talk specific on the building sector, I would say the ventilation industry over the last few years has become quite organized. In early 2000s, we saw a lot of new entrants, both the global companies as well as a lot of our Indian companies venturing into this. But in last 10 years, I think has been a phase of consolidation. And I expect that another 10 years would be on the phase of consolidation. The certifications, the energy efficiency and innovation have been driving this industry. So yes, it is being very well recognized and being, as you asked me that whether innovation is being valued, I would say it has been. And we have seen that the industry has been very quick to adopt to this. People have started looking and designing on the demand-based control. And as I said, this is more specific to the commercial building industry, whereas I would still say the industrial side or maybe some of the residential side is not still probably evolved as much. But in the commercial building side, we've seen a lot of improvements on the energy efficiency, and currently it's being dominated by the large players. So I would say that's how we've seen this industry progress.
So you would say that people or manufacturers who have brought out more efficient products and technological advancements have gained market share vis-a-vis the unorganized sector or the localized manufacturers.
Absolutely. And that's what I said, that we're seeing more consolidation, the market being dominated by now the larger players. And you need to keep on being, since these are energy guzzlers, you have to find a way to reduce the energy consumption. Noise, as I said, certifications have become such a big vital. Today, most of the products which are being sold are requiring your energy certifications or requiring your fire certifications. So that is what is making this industry more organized as far as building sector is concerned.
And do you at any time see ratings coming into the play from actual physical rating, like we have on air conditioning, a star rating, etc.? Do you see that coming down the line?
I'm sure it would, and that would be a positive step for the industry. Though, as I said, we have already getting quite organized in terms of, when we talk about a lot of our products which are towards air movement, we already have the AMCA ratings. Products are today already being classified based on how are you positioned on your efficiency over there. So the industry is already driven in that direction. If a domestic yardstick comes in, I think it would be even better. Even the new NBC has started defining minimum efficiency norms, and so I think the industry is ready for that. If the moment government mandates it, it would be a welcome step.
That's nice to know and interesting, encouraging, I think, for the entire industry and the user community at large. Vinay, I would like to get you into the conversation here. You said, yeah, hi Vinay. I know your journey to some extent, and you know that you at one time your larger concentration of a business of filters was from the air conditioning and the ventilation trade, and then I think right now it's a smaller part of the business. So I would just would love to know that in general, in specific to your industry or in general as a filter manufacturer, what parts still continues from the air conditioning and ventilation industry contributes to your business, and what are the key challenges that you are facing specific to our industry of ventilation as a filter manufacturer over the last few years?
So our focus has always been on manufacturing filters that are certified to, unfortunately for us, it's only European and American standards, but we've been following those very specifically. The automotive industry, where we have a very dominating presence in the auto paint shop, they follow European standards, and that's what we have been following. We have a joint venture with a company called Filtration from Netherlands, and so that therefore our leaning has been to quite a bit to the European standards. And being used to making a certain quality of filters, the challenge we have faced from the HVAC industry is that people were not willing to accept products that were rated in terms of efficiency or in terms of pressure drop, lower pressure drop. As Sachin was just mentioning, that energy is a big consumption, and filters contribute a lot to energy costs because of pressure drops. However, we've not been able to convince the industry that there is a need for better air filtration in their systems, and that's why we kind of took a back step. But in recent times, we're finding more and more people are again interested in getting qualified air filters, and therefore we have again started being actively participating in this industry. So our interest and our focus has always been in ensuring that there's energy efficient products, they are qualified products. Unfortunately, our industry, there are a lot of very small players who don't even use a qualified filter media to make a filter. And the specs that are built in are more towards washability and low cost, not caring about efficiency at all, both in terms of pressure drop, particulate efficiency. So those are reasons why we took a step back from the HVAC and concentrated more on the automotive and the machine intake, the gas turbines, where we are quite active in these areas. But I see more and more people interested in better qualified products. So we are happy to step up our presence. And my appeal to everybody listening is that please start using qualified products. It's not about using it from us, but wherever. I mean, there is need for clean air, there is need for energy efficiency. So those things, at least the filtration industry is quite geared to provide now. And it's up to the HVAC industry to really start paying attention to it. So that's what I would like to see more and more.
So at one point, we've heard Sachin talk about that the industry has really been acknowledging superior products, both from a technical and innovation perspective. But at the same time, we have one very key component of ventilation as well as air conditioning, which is filters. And I totally agree with you that it's being a largely ignored product without knowing the real consequences of having. In fact, maybe sounding a bit too blunt, I would say a filter is actually more important than the fan itself, because it also contributes to health and safety of the occupant inside. But I think the trade is changing being part of the trade. People are getting more conscious, both whether it's the end customer, the user, as well as the entire line from a contractor to a designer. Everybody is getting a little bit more conscious, and I'm pretty sure that the organized sector of filtration or the unorganized sector becoming more organized and more technologically aligned is a matter of time, and we would see this industry, and we would expect Spectrum now again back having a larger share of the business coming from the HVAC trade.
We are patient. We are here. If whenever we are ready, more and more customers, we are patient. I mean, we don't expect change to happen over a small period. So I'm sure things will change.
Absolutely, absolutely. Prabhu, I would like to cut you in now. Kitchen ventilation, okay, is something which for a long time has generally been a very ignored subject, barring the high-end five-star hotels or the large properties. In general, kitchen ventilation, still continues to follow rule of thumb. एक hood है तो इतना CFM लगा दो पंखा लगा दो, या as broadly said, people would say कि 4-5 HP का मोटर लगा दो या 3 HP का मोटर लगा दो and ventilation हो गया. Normally, that's been even now because the number of kitchens who are like standalone restaurants or the smaller ones along the whole cities and small towns of India do not understand what kitchen ventilation is. And I understand that the broader aspect in kitchen ventilation is that it's got a spectrum of players linked along. From a kitchen consultant who at times does not understand ventilation, they might understand very well about the equipment and the kind of cooking, etc., but they do not understand ventilation very well. Then you have equipment manufacturers, whether they are kitchen equipment or hoods. You do not at times get the right data out from those people from burner capacity, etc. Then you have fan manufacturers. Then you have contractors. There are multiple players in this entire spectrum of kitchen ventilation. So, you as a kitchen ventilation expert, how do you see the industry change now or over the last few years and the next few years ahead? Is it going to be getting the recognition, the due recognition that is needed, whether they're hotels or stand-alone restaurants, hospitals, industrial kitchens, anywhere? Or do you still see that it's going to continue in that same kinds of chalta hai attitude? Prabhu, you're mute. Prabhu, you're mute.
Our brand promise is ensuring chefs don't get cooked. Okay. Now, the change is happening from the chef side. Because what is happening is the chef is finding it, there's a huge shortage of manpower, and the main chef or the head chef wants to retain. I'm talking about the middle level and the lower level, restaurants. And the main chef is in charge of the total productivity. And today, the main chef is pushing the owners to invest in good ventilation system. That is what we have found. It's a great change happening for the good of the people and good of the industry also. We shall please understand that it is not only the exhaust that makes the difference. What people fail to understand is all the oxygen in the kitchen is getting used up by the fossil fuel. And there is a huge dearth of oxygen which happens when the cooking is there without fresh air or exhaust. And this is what will make which will really affect the life of the people who are working there, because we have a lot of radiated heat also coming out from tandoors and all that, which we cannot avoid. But at least the convective plumes and that can be taken off and make the life of the chef good. In fact, very interestingly, there is one chain of restaurant who had about 18 restaurants, Vishal, and he wanted to make it a showcase restaurant, and he did very good kitchen ventilation in one of them. And normally the way is they bring 2 out of the old restaurants to the new restaurant to train the new staff. And this guy was told, the chefs were told to go back after the new restaurant was started. He said, nothing doing. I am not going back to the earlier restaurant. You give me the same ventilation there, then only I will go back. So as I said, this is driving the industry, number one. Number two, FSSAI is becoming very strict. Food and Safety Association. A lot of EHS things are happening, employee health and safety. And during COVID, it has really taken a turn. What happened was the parcels have gone up by 600, some places 300, 400%. People don't come to dine in. And people wanted to display their kitchen to the people who come to take the parcels. And I have had a lot of customers who have put cameras in their kitchen to show to the customers who are coming to pick up the parcels. Other than Swiggy and all that they have a very healthy and very good kitchen, and the chef is not sweating, not adding the salt from his sweat, that kind of. So this has brought up a lot of change, and I'm getting a lot of retrofit inquiries as far when COVID has happened. COVID has been a blessing that way also. And health-wise, now everybody's talking health. The people who eat the food want, the good chefs to be doing, healthy chefs to cook their healthy food. and this is really driving. Talking about the the way kitchen ventilation has been treated by the HVAC industry, I think you have been kind enough to think of setting up a technical group on kitchen ventilation for ISRE in Hyderabad, I think, which will bring in a lot of more localized, information to our users in kitchen ventilation. And I think things will change with a lot of these health aspects coming into the kitchen. And I see a very bright future for the kitchen ventilation industry.
But just one add-on, small, brief question, Prabhu, is that when we talk about kitchen ventilation specialists, say someone like you, are we talking about somebody who is able to design a system, or somebody who is able to install, or somebody who is able to do hood manufacturers? So, what part of the entire spectrum is the most interesting or the most lucrative?
Purely design, purely design it is. I mean, if you do it properly, then you are selecting the right fan, you are selecting the right fresh air unit, you are selecting the right hood, you are doing the right ducting. Because unfortunately, what I have found is, especially in new commercial buildings, the architects, they will say, मैं तो सिर्फ आपको 18 इंच दे सकता हूँ. People don't understand that it is not air conditioning, it is ventilation. Ventilation ducts are bigger, ventilation ducts need more turns, and they have to really, especially design of duct. I'm going to share tomorrow what we have done in a Vijayawada kitchen where I am today. On this thing, we had a very low ceiling kitchen, and we had to really pull out all the tricks in our basket to ventilate that kitchen. So it is purely design, and I wish the designers, HVAC designers, take it more seriously. In fact, we have put so much of information on our website, Vishal. There is a whole download section on our website where people can come download a lot of information on kitchen ventilation. Our whole effort is to see that kitchen ventilation industry standards rise in India. So it is pure design. I wish more designers take it seriously, and we are ready to help and do the hand holding.
Okay, thanks, Prabhu. Thanks for the inputs. Could I have Nishant come in over here now on a very interesting technology? When I say interesting, it's possibly one of the oldest technologies, but yet India might be, you would correct me if I'm wrong, the largest consumer of that technology for cooling, which is evaporative cooling, of which your organization is very well renowned, skilled, and experienced in that technology, both where they're residential, commercial, or industrial nature. Would you be able to throw some light on the size of this industry, whether in numbers or in value terms, etc.? Where do you see it growing in numbers, etc.? And as largely perceived, this industry still, apart from the few players, branded players on national scale, who are still more popular in the domestic segment, is this industry getting more organized, or will it continue to move unorganized because at this point there are no standards or rating or codes, etc. for that industry? But then we have acknowledged in different forums, including at history, that evaporative cooling is one of the healthiest ways of cooling an indoor space for whatever needs. So where do you see this industry going at this point?
Okay, as you rightly mentioned, probably it is one of the oldest way to cool, and I don't see anything falling short in times to come. When we consider maybe the market size, world over, it is assumed to be close to 10,000 crores. That's what the industry size could be, about 1.3 billion USD. That's as of 2019. Of course, COVID might have slowed down the pace, which otherwise would have been something different. Out of this, maybe 60% comes into Asia, because the weather conditions of Asia is more suitable. And apart from that, maybe Australia also partially, of which further 20% comes to India. So when you see world over, India has a sizable population to take care of evaporative cooling systems per se. And that brings our industry size close to about 2,000 crores. That's what some of the studies says. When we look into industrial as well as commercial, it is largely governed currently by the residential segment. So the ratio could be something like about 80 to 20%, wherein all the commercial segments is nearing to almost 20%. But I see a huge splurge in terms of increase in requirement on industrial segment, for the simple reason that in times to come, people had been always working for the basic bread and butter to work along. But as and when we keep on aspiring to improve the quality of life, and as the awareness keeps on increasing in terms of productivity, the aspect ratios of working, people have started now considering evaporative cooling to bring down the ambient temperature to about, say, 10 degrees from the ambient, and also provide a clean environment for the manufacturing. So I see a huge growth in industrial segment, which is on the front. It had been constantly over the years growing with more than 10+% of year-on-year growth. But in times to come, the growth would be much more higher, both at the lower level when we say of, say, residential segment, because the penetration was very, very less in industrial as well as in residential and industrial both, and government also now working in a very focused way with affordable cooling plans. So I do see a huge potential for a country like India, and I would urge all the listeners to seriously consider this as one of the possible prospect areas where they can very well find a niche market and generate reasonable lucrative businesses. The challenges in every business are there. While we see the positive sides of any business, there are challenges. When you're talking of unorganized sector, which is largely governed in this industry, I don't have the exact statistics, but I believe more than at least 60-70% of the market is in the hands of unorganized sector. And that is where the bigger challenge is, because people are, one, not designing the products technically, two, not buying it technically. As you are aware of, maybe desert coolers are sold by the capacity of water that it can hold, or maybe the blower size, which is no way a way to identify the capacity or size of the products. Unfortunately, our country had been following West, and that's the reason that this kind of technology has never got the attention which it actually deserved. Our forefathers had been used to living in a ventilated spaces, and maybe evaporative cooling was known from the time when chicks were being used, and various passive cooling technologies were used way back in 100 years or 1,000 years ahead before also. So overall awareness on the design and implementation has not been there. You won't find any MNC coming into this, barring few who are maybe within Asia, because this kind of technology is not suitable for the West. It is meant for countries like India and subcontinent, and it is up to us to identify the way forward and strategize it in a way that the awareness goes into the right minds. Well, the good news is that our associate society, ISHRE, most of us are aware of, had been very strongly working on that, and the standards for designing and implementing it is in the process. A selection design guidebook for the end user is in the process, and a software to actually analyze that what kind of outside conditions are and what you can expect inside is very soon would be getting unveiled. So I believe it's more of spreading the awareness, bring more technical people onto the forum, and I see that it's not going to stop. It does not replace air conditioning, absolutely, but it complements it in a very, very nice way. So it has a huge, tremendous potential to grow further.
Thanks. I think that's very encouraging, Nishant, because yes, evaporative cooling, if done both selected as well as manufactured in the right manner, would be one of the most energy efficient and healthy way of bringing down temperatures, not as the levels of air conditioning would, but to much more comfortable levels. So, and the technologies there are.
Yeah, just to continue, I'm sorry to stop you, Vishal, but just to consider maybe COVID times, as you might have already read, and you've specified in the documents, and the entire COVID guidebook team have done that. It's the higher humidity and ventilation which is more important. Unfortunately, we are used to live in a closed glass door buildings, and that's where the challenges are. This actually is giving a different perspective to the entire spectrum, and I do see that this again would have a differentiator when you say the market share. It is going to increase for sure.
Thanks, Nishant. We now want to get in Dinesh to get a contracting perspective. It is by default that the contracting company comes in at the end, so not the design. It's not designed as I say.
No, it is a fact of life.
No worries. By profession,
without products, there cannot be contractors.
Absolutely. By profession, I'm also a contractor, so I understand the pain.
I know.
So, some very generic questions to you, Dinesh. It's said that the entry barrier in contracting is very, very low, at an all-time low, and one can see everyone's becoming a contractor, and This obviously lowers the deliverable standards in field. It also just ruins the right pricing. And I'm saying the right pricing. Nothing is, I'm not about high pricing or low pricing. The right pricing also goes for a 6. What is the way out of this entire gamut? And part two of the question, which is becoming much more in our face in the last few weeks, is the price validity in contracts. So, because with the way prices have been changing the last 6 weeks odd, and we expect it to go on further down, and contracts normally do not have any link to prices in the field. Where do you see a contracting company going? Is it really becoming one of the worst times to be a contractor right now?
Yeah, yeah, sometimes you feel that way, but life is not really so, because as I said, we have seen 4 recessions and we have passed through all the recessions. And this time, added to that is only this pandemic. It is giving you much better opportunity to reassess yourself, I think. So per se, I don't accept that this price increase is really a factor. Price increase will always be there during the recession times. Fluctuations will always be there. Forget that. But basically, when you said contracting industry, the entry level is at a barrier low. Actually, there is a bit of I can say misconception here. You are saying there is a lower entry barrier, whereas earlier speaker, couple of them, when they said they have moved from product to project also, and somebody has moved from project to product also. So when we see in the market, basically product manufacturers also are getting into contracting, and there are multinationals who are coming to India, taking over smaller and struggling contracting firms. So entry level is, I think, so at this point of time, there is nothing called a specific entry level. So as you said, anybody is coming in, and different levels of people coming in, they are creating a disruption for the entry level. Okay, and I would like to speak more on the problem that we contractors face. I hope a lot of contractors are also listening, and it is out of the experience that what I have seen. The contractor, if one has to become a contractor, no person from fresh out of engineering college or MBA degree will become a contractor, right? So he would have worked in some air conditioning firm for a couple of years or 5, whatever number of years. With that experience, he gets into contracting. And more so, we have seen project engineers from a particular company getting into contracting. And the exposure of that particular engineer would be to the extent of only project execution. He might have technically dealt with the PMC, consultants, customer, everybody, and he would have billed and collected the money, but still he is not totally exposed to estimation and costing. So that is one level of contractor that we are talking about. Second, assume, let us say, a salesperson from a reputed firm becomes a contractor. He thinks that he is booking jobs and he is getting good enough money to the company, so he wants to start on his own. Unfortunately, his exposure again is to the level of only estimation, costing, and booking the job. He is not aware of the site nuances, how a project is executed, what are all the problems that the project engineer faces, starting from transportation of material, shifting of materials at site, and the frequent drawing changes. All these things he will not be knowing. So his knowledge is also limited. And a service person, third, could become a contractor, wherein he has got zero experience of costing, sales, everything, but he only knows to deliver good for the customer. So unless otherwise you have the whole gambit of experience with respect to HVAC contracting, wherein it is a combination of sales, projects, and service, all three components, it is very difficult for a person to survive. More than anything else, the when you said the price fluctuation and deliverables are coming low, it is basically because of these lack of these experiences. The person has not been exposed to costing estimation, so that is where he thinks that he is doing an estimation like I am purchasing X at X price plus 10% is my margin, which is not true actually, which is not true. He will learn this after a couple of years because he has not closed his books. Once he starts closing the books, then only he will understand where did I make money, where did I lose my money. So all these three things are the factors which is actually reducing the deliverables. First 1 year, 2 years, maybe they have done good work, and third year when they realize because of their poor estimation, they would have landed up in making lower margins. Would have been, some people are under stress to rebook the jobs at or make volume and make money. Some people have the concept of booking lesser jobs with better profits. So it depends on each individual. So I would urge everybody, a contracting firm, to do their homework properly. And the way out for this situation is, if you have seen, listen to earlier product manufacturers and their way of thinking, they are all brand conscious actually. Okay, they say, I am the fan manufacturer, I follow this standard, I follow this. Whereas in contracting firm, what is that we can talk about? We can talk only about our deliverables. We can only talk about our quality. And we have to turn this into brand consciousness. We contracting firms also should think as we are going to be a branded contractor. I am supposed to be known as a deliverable, quality conscious contractor. Once we start thinking ourselves, building our own image as a reputed person, not just a roadside contractor, then things will fall in line. I feel that is the way to go forward. And these COVID times has really helped, especially company like me and like-minded people maybe who have started relooking into their manpower strength and how to, if at all we have to re-add the manpower strength or not. All these things are a lesson which COVID has taught us for the contracting firms, and more so. We are under the mercy of highly knowledgeable people, Vishal. If you see, contractors are a link between knowledgeable people and the unskilled and semi-skilled workforce. So we are like a football. When we are talking about everybody plays with us, so unless we become techno-commercially thorough, I don't think so. We contractors can stand up and say, this is what I am, this is what is my price, and this is what I can do. This should be the level of a firm. That is what I expect contractors to raise to the level.
So Dinesh, I'll come back to you in the next set of questions. I'm giving you time to think on this. Though personally, you and I have had discussions on this subject as to, is this the time to look at having certified contractors, like we have certified products? Think it over. I'll come back to you and ask you very frankly, and is that the way ahead? I would like to get Sachin back on track now over here. To 7 months, courtesy COVID, we're seeing air purification and air management. You also have used that in the first part of your answer. Is becoming more important. Is it becoming more important, or is it just a buzzword that people are talking about purifying air and managing the air distribution, etc., in a better manner to avoid spread of pandemic? And maybe in a year's time, when hopefully everything is behind us quick and fast, we will be back to the same old rut of putting in, not being bothered much about the air quality inside, except some few companies here and there. So do you think this is an opportunity to stay for the long term for businesses to get into this sphere of whether you're manufacturing a product or whether you're on the services of air purification? Is it there to stay, or is it just a passing phase?
Okay, Charles. So from business sake, I hope it stays. I had already requested, let's start calling this as VHAC. On a serious note, I firmly believe that this whole air purification and this whole ventilation concept, the demand would continue to keep going up, because one aspect is the pollution side of it, which is also creating the awareness, and I don't see that going anywhere. In fact, more and more cities are getting into that zone of what some of the northern cities are facing, and Delhi has been facing. So that would keep driving the air purification. If you read any market research report on air purification, they are all estimating a 45 to 50% compounded annual growth rate. So which is, I don't think there are many such industries available which talks about such kind of a growth rate. Also, this COVID, as all the speakers have also highlighted, that it has created that awareness and the importance that you need to have the fresh air, the ventilation, the air management, the distribution. I would not be surprised if some stringent regulations actually start coming in on mandating so much fresh air and exhaust systems, and that too being filtered and treated. I see a rise in demand for products like treated fresh air units and ERVs, which so far have been ignored in so much of our air conditioning applications. So I believe and hope that it should stay.
And when we're talking about air purification, broadly, one is coming into the domestic side, which are the finished products, and then we're getting into the commercial or the industrial side, which are not finished and which are part of the air conditioning system as large or as standalone systems. Where do you see businesses, or which is a much more interactive segment for the MSME industry in India?
To enter, you mean to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as the domestic sector is concerned, today you see all big companies having their product in place. So for a MSME to position themselves in that particular space, which is now become a consumer item, it would be really difficult, because these companies which are a white good companies, the kind of network they have, the kind of the marketing budgets that they have, it is going to be difficult to position yourself on the domestic side. But I would say this whole space of the commercial, industrial is available for the MSME, because that's where when you're looking for centralized air purification systems specific to a particular, like we talked about, use of so much of UVC in different kind of applications. So there lies a huge scope for MSME companies.
Okay. Fine. Thanks, Sachin. Thanks for being so frank. Vinay, taking it on to you. So coming forward from what Sachin was talking about, that air purification is there to stay because people are going to remain conscious about air quality, etc. Now that brings filters right in the forefront of the whole thing, because whatever kind of an air purification system you would use, filters will always be an integral part, whether the main part or one of the parts, but it is going to be an integral part of any air purification system, whether it's residential or commercial or industrial, healthcare. Do you think the filter industry is going to see a sea change in the approach of manufacturers and standards? Do you see at some point a standard coming in our country for filters? Because you rightly said that you're following European and American standards right now. Do you see the government acknowledging from a compliance point of view, as well as the industry recognizing from a requirement point of view, that we now need to just go to standard filter manufacturing companies?
I see that more and more, Vishal. And, even though we don't have a standard and we may be following a European standard, but at the same time, I don't think that as a hindrance. More and more of our customers are now actually wanting qualified filters. And during this COVID time, we came up with two products which have been a hit with our customers. One is a ViroSafe MERV 13 filter, which was largely inspired by the paper you bought out. And I should give you all the credit during that time that we came up with a product which was low in pressure drop, unfortunately not cleanable, which most people like. But at the same time, if you use a pre-filter in front of it and then you use a MERV 13, it captures a large variety of particles which should not be inside, very good for PM 2.5 also. And we came up with a True Shield HEPA filter, which is primarily designed for air cleaners, which not only captures viruses, but also destroys it within 30 seconds of capture. So we got that product tested in a European laboratory to be certified to be eliminating all COVID, SARS-CoV particles, viruses. So these are two products which we have bought in. We're seeing a huge upsurge with customers wanting such products in the market. People want to be safe. And even, I hope the COVID situation goes away as soon as possible. But the fact that aerosol inside indoor air is causing pollution has become ingrained in people's minds. So indoor air being unhealthy compared to even outdoor air in some situation is ingrained in everybody's minds. So more and more people I talk to, they are aware of indoor air quality, and I'm very certain that they will soon realize that qualified products are needed. And it's going to be I'm sure it's going to become part of our daily life. People are going to care about air quality.
And where do you see the healthcare industry looking at filters? Aren't they in general much more conscious as compared to, say, a normal commercial customer, even pre-COVID?
Well, yes, yes and no, because we are not very deeply associated with the healthcare industry as such. Hospitals, we don't have a big inroad into that industry. We have a good inroad into the pharmaceutical industry, but not really in the hospital industry. So I'm not very, sure of how much of an upsurge. So I'm not qualified enough to answer that really.
Sure. Thanks, Vinay. Prabhu, back to you. Now, over the last 7-8 months, one of the worst hit industries is the hospitality industry. Most industries have been hit, but one of the worst has been hospitality, and it's continue next few months ahead. Seems to be still a challenge going ahead. So things have eased off surely in the last 1 or 2 months, but we know it's going to be a big challenge ahead. Now, if hospitality industry in totality is in trouble, where do you see kitchen ventilation as a business opportunity? Is it going to be tough days ahead, or you see an opportunity, a silver lining over there for an organized play today?
There are two things in this, Vishal. One thing is for sure, 50% of the restaurants have closed. Okay, and it's a sad thing. The amount of chefs that are jobless is very, very painful for us to see. But at the same time, what is happening is food is never going to die. So new people are taking it over, and they are changing the menu or the type of rebranding is happening. I've seen at least quite a few, at least 15 or 20 brands who are added new brands to the existing setup, and they're trying to change the menu. So that is bringing a small opportunity for us as far as restaurants is concerned, because they need to they're going to redo they're going to add something or they're going to remove something. But the biggest what I want to say, opportunity today is energy saving. People are because energy is one of the biggest guzzlers when it comes to kitchen ventilation. And to be very frank, people have not been putting kitchen ventilation because the amount of energy it guzzles is something huge. Though the peak period is only about 2 or 3 hours in a day, in the morning, and 2 hours in the evening, but the fan keeps running all the time. And I see a huge opportunity in terms of demand ventilation for this particular industry coming up. So that is one thing we are definitely addressing and we are getting into. Secondly, we also find that a lot of retrofits which are going to happen in terms of somebody closing up, somebody buying it up and redoing at a new place. That is bringing a very big opportunity, and we get almost calls every day, at least 1 or 2 calls, saying that we want to retrofit. And the third one is the cloud kitchens, Vishal. Cloud kitchens are a big name today, and a lot of multinationals getting into it. For your information, what are they going to do is they're going to have, say, about 10,000 square foot of kitchen. They're going to make smaller kitchens of 300, 400 kitchens in that, sub kitchens, and then they're going to lease it out. So that is one huge opportunity which is coming up because of this COVID, because parcels have gone up. Online buying has gone up. So this cloud kitchen is one thing which is coming up very strongly. We ourselves get almost 2 or 3 inquiries for cloud kitchen per month. Locally, I'm talking only in Hyderabad. And you can imagine nationally. And there is one very big group, I won't like to name them. They are planning to set up 100 cloud kitchens across the country. And each of those cloud kitchens would have at least 30 mini kitchens inside that. So this is one opportunity, new opportunity which has come up. And I think, as I said, food never dies. So this will continue. It will take some time. But the projects in the 5 stars, they're continuing as usual because hotels are not built for a day. And mid-segment, there is a lot of change of hands happening, a lot of renovation which has happened. In fact, this has given a lot of opportunity for people to redo their kitchens. And
so I think
I
you've
find
hit
a lot
it
of
very
people
spot
trying to
on.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, for all listeners, that retrofit, and I totally agree with you, is one very big area because people would then want to retrofit for whatever reason, whether for energy saving or for remodeling or for redesigning,
Yes.
etc. But retrofit is, and then once you get an opportunity to retrofit, you end up doing the right thing. And when a client uses your system for once and knows that he started saving money, as well as it's become far more efficient from an operational point of view, comfort, health, and safety of the staff and the
But
manpower in the kitchen and the restaurant or whatever else, it engages and increases engagement with them for future projects also.
But there is a lot of limitation when it comes to retrofitting because you have
Space.
to remove the old things, put new things. People are in love with their old things. They would like you to reuse it. It doesn't fit the new setup, so you have to convince them. It is very painful for them to sell it out as scrap. But yes, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, well, as industry, as contracting industry specifically, even in designing community, we all love retrofit projects because they're generally much more lucrative from a
Yes.
financial perspective. Nishant would like to reach out to you now.
Yes,
You have
please.
also been into duct manufacturing, prefab, different kinds of duct manufacturing, as you said in your opening statement also. Over the last some years, or couple of years, we're seeing that more and more such setups are opening. I remember till around 7, 10 years back, I am from the eastern side of India. The whole of East had not even a single factory, having duct manufacturing capabilities. And now slowly we had more than 2 or 3 opening up. Do you see this phenomena of duct factories now opening up in literally every large city? I'm not even talking about metros, every tier 2, tier 3 city of the country, so that the freight costs are limited and you see more and more even smaller projects, projects where there's no specification of prefab ducting, getting into this concept of factory fabricated ducting, and hence this becoming a very lucrative business for people to look at getting into?
So there are two aspects, Vishal, you rightly mentioned. The challenges are two. Not a straight answer, but yes, you're right. It is more localized now. You cannot think of selling a prefabricated duct from one part of the country to another part of the country because the transportation costs are pretty huge. Uh, it is good maybe when you're planning on tier one city because, and that's the reason that you find more of them in those locations because the volumes justify the kind of investments that it requires. Not very easy to break even in tier two and tier three, but the person has to gauge various aspects before taking a call that whether he or she wants to venture into this prefab ducts. The machineries are available right from part automation to fully automatic machines. When you get into the actual competitive marketing world, you find that the margins are very, very thin. It's wafer thin, and you have to actually work on backwards to identify where you are losing on the money. And that's where a lot of automation is required. And the people, those who have literally automated the entire plant, uh, they are probably getting a little edge in terms of pricing. Otherwise, it is more of conversion charges that you are taking. This is one on the competitive side. So that again calls for a higher capex, which becomes one of the entry barrier if you have to really seriously consider this as one of the mainstream businesses that you'd like to. Second challenge is towards the contracting side, and that goes down to labor contractor. Without naming, few years back, I remember about 15 years back, we were discussing with one of the very senior MDs of a MNC, and he mentioned that we have put up a prefab duct manufacturing unit and we had to shut it down. The reason was that the labor contractors was not appreciating to buy and install the prefab ducts. The logic was that they were not getting a chance to steal. Certain people, those who really enjoy taking that margin, that cuts in whatever the wastage is, all of you as a contractor would barely find a site from where you are getting a return of the material which is supplied as a GI sheet coil. Here comes another important factor, that how many of you are actually doing an audit of the project that you are into. Are you making a proper job closure statement, understanding what kind of volumes you're supplying and what you're getting and billing it? The moment you start analyzing it, you would find prefab duct makes a lot of sense. And we were doing it back in 2007, 8, where we were not calling for any, the specifications were not calling for prefab duct. But when you do a proper calculation, you identify that it makes a lot of sense to have a prefab duct. And this is where tier 2, tier 3 cities would start finding lot many other manufacturers coming into the picture. Otherwise, if you're not able to utilize the plant capacity, the capex is so high that you eventually would not be able to make it up. So it's important that both on the contractor side and subcontractor side start to understand. Fortunately, as the labor cost has started increasing, labor contracting side have started understanding the challenges that they themselves are facing and identifying good foremen, and they are happy doing a prefab duct because their life is easier. And we are graduating to a level where all the old contractors are understanding the cost finances behind it, and they are moving towards this direction. So as the movement increases, I see that yes, in times to come, it will have more exposure in smaller towns. But as of now, it will be restricted to a larger cities, and slowly it can have its penetration.
Thanks, Nishant. Thanks for your honest comment back. Dinesh, I hope you've thought over your answer.
What was the question again, Vishal?
Okay. So two aspects. One is, do you think there is a need to bring in certification for contractors, like we have certification for products, or at times even for professionals now? Do you think there is a point in case to bring in category A, B, or C, something of that sort? I'm just talking very much in the air right now. Number one. And number two, what really you think is there, if at all, any difference in industrial ventilation based contracting as compared to regular air conditioning, whatever size contracting jobs? Because you do not see every air conditioning contractor being able to qualify or even quote for industrial ventilation based jobs. So where do you think is there a difference between these two?
Let me answer your second question first. Industrial ventilation, the technology itself has changed now. Okay, earlier it used to be with centralized fan and huge amount of ducting and things like that. Now we have jet fans, and now again EC fans. Irrespective of all that, the contractors are the same. So I don't think so. The contractors cannot manage the industrial ventilation per se. Here, there are a lot of crossovers happening in our industry. It may be to whosoever convenience it is. People want MEP, single entity, to handle everything. And now you are saying you want different set of people for industrial ventilation. I don't understand, because as long as I am an HVAC contractor, I can handle starting from basement to terrace. I can install a jet fan which is 70 kgs to 7 tons of chiller. I can install, commission, handover. So I don't think so there should be any barrier per se distinguishing the contractor for a ventilation and industrial ventilation and the total HVAC contracting per se. So coming back to your first question, certified contractors, it's a good thinking, Vishal, but we have always discussed offline, and any certification is good and beautiful, people would like to happen, but it is only limited to products. People accept for any certification only on products. So in contracting, what are you going to certify me as?
Based on your infrastructure.
Question number one. Okay. Yeah. Second thing is, who is going to be the certifier? Fine. Okay. I would rather say, where do we have, we were talking about deliverables becoming low. Let us analyze the root cause for the deliverables being low. That is our primary problem, right? It is not anything else. Undercoating, deliverables becoming low, these are the problems. So let us try to address those issues rather than certifying somebody, because nobody wants to, in our country especially, still we are, in our industry, we are yet to mature to get people certified. Because so-called knowledgeable people, they themselves do not accept. I mean, that way, if you see, all the design happens by the person who is highly knowledgeable in the field, consultant, and I feel there the certification counts more. Like we have anybody getting into contracting, there also we have seen that anybody becoming a consultant. In fact, if we can bring in this certification or classification at that level, contractor, I'm after all a laborer. I just assemble your ideas. All the product manufacturers and consultants' idea, I just assemble. So I need to be a layman only. In fact, when we started contracting, to be honest, consultant used to say, "This is my drawing. Please go execute as per this drawing." I don't want to see one change. This is what used to be a contractor. Today, consultant customer wants me to do a shop drawing, execute, find out, go to site, redo the working drawing. So I am becoming much more knowledgeable, technical than the consultant itself, right? So I feel we should really educate or enlighten the basic estimators, or when we are talking to clients also, that they should cost for anything. It is easy for bringing out tenders. Most of the places we have seen it is copy paste tenders. And when a contractor quotes, consultant would have taken months together to bring in the tender document, whereas a contractor is given 7 to 8 days for a 30 crore job to quote. And what kind of line items? It will say AHU including all blah 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 plus motorized valve plus EC fan plus that this everything in a single this thing. And if one of the line item inside that this thing is missed, your costing has gone for a toss. So I feel we need to plug holes where it has to be properly done. If the line items can be brought out separately so that a contractor or a bidder who bids properly, he can cost for it. And there are so many things apart from the BOQ also, the costing comes in. Like somewhere he would have mentioned, you should deputize a safety supervisor, you should put a fire engineer. All these things are not in the line item, but you still have to depute people and you have to cost for it. Where do you cost for it?
Got the
Who
point.
has to bring in these line items? So by certifying me, what are you going to gain? Project is not going to gain anything. I'm sure project is not going to gain anything by having a certified contractor. Only the tag will be there. But unless we go through the root cause analysis, yes, when the contractors or anybody is becoming contractors without proper commercial knowledge, they are quoting. That is all one part of it. But as responsible people, we experienced people, Rata, ISRE, anybody should make it a mandatory thing that when we do the BOQs and space terms and conditions, it should bring out more clarity so that people can estimate for it, and all you should be left with is the margin that you decide to play around. Now today what is happening is people are desperate, they want to somehow win the job, so they are underquoting because they think that tomorrow world is coming to end, which is not true. My contracting friends, please, nothing is going to end tomorrow, so don't be desperate to book anything negative. First, do your homework, do your costing properly. Otherwise, you will not be able to survive after closing 2 jobs. So my opinion as respect to certification, Vishal, that is not the way. I think so, at the maximum, like you can say class A, class B based on the turnover and infrastructure.
Fair enough. Thanks for being frank and upfront as always, Dinesh. And it's always good to be sharing thoughts out of experience, and so that people listening in can always gain out of that. So thanks to you. I'd like to get Ajit back in over here for some closing remarks, and I hope you've enjoyed the last 1 hour of some very aggressive and plain simple talk.
No, that's it, Vishal. I guess that's the whole thing that we need to bring out of the industry. Speak your minds out. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. We just need to speak our minds out. We can influence a change, and we can collaborate and work together. So before we wind up, we've got another 10 minutes. I think we have just about time question to pick up a closing remark from everybody. And I want to actually bring in Sachin. Sachin, you've been in the manufacturing line for a very long time. There's a lot of talk which is going on, made in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I guess it's motivating. Even at Rata, we are trying to encourage people to get into component manufacturing and everything. Now, be honest and tell everyone who is listening how easy it is to get into manufacturing. Is it really easy in India to do it, or is just a pipe dream?
Sajid, so honestly speaking, every business, there's nothing called an easy business. Every business, be it your manufacturing, trading, we've heard about the contracting story, they're all difficult, right? But you find a way out. So we've been into manufacturing for 30 years, and so I'm surely going to propagate that. Yes, manufacturing is something which is surely a way forward. I think if India has seen last 20 years being seen as a service provider kind of image, probably next few years would be for the manufacturing. In general, the advantage of manufacturing is that once you succeed, it's a more sustainable model. And especially people who are debating between manufacturing and trading. Trading is, yes, much easier to start with, but you don't own the product. You may lose that agency. You're not able to innovate, or you are at whatever the way the manufacturer does it. That's how it really works. So the beauty of manufacturing is that it gives you that power of creating something, innovating something. Mr. Dinesh talked about creating a brand. So that's the real beauty aspect of it. I've already talked about that the macro environment seems pretty healthy for people to get into manufacturing. But I would say the word of cautions now is it's not really a cup of tea for everyone. Okay, and I would say the hassles which are involved in this is probably the least of my concern, because I think every business has those hassles, and when you enter it, you find a way to get out of it, right? But I would say the most important aspect is whether you have the passion to create something, a quality stuff, and keep on innovating in that. Also, your risk appetite needs to be much larger, and your financial base for the investment needs to be much larger. As I mentioned, things will keep on moving towards more and more organized manner. So the economies of scale will play an important role. Innovation will play an important role. So one has to keep that in mind, how to keep that sustainable over the years. And yes, there are plenty of, Nishant highlighted a couple of them, but plenty of opportunities still available to find your niche. The only my caution word would be, don't ever compromise on your quality and the process. If that's in place, I think you will find a way out.
Awesome. So that's on an optimistic note. So it makes sense, because even at the association, we want to push our members saying that there is an opportunity here and we should step out into it. So thank you so much, Sachin, for actually sharing that insight. Vinay, when you have a lot of manufacturers who come in, and especially in our industry, we also have a lot of smaller companies. And somehow that gets you a tag that, we're an unorganized industry, while you actually evolved yourself, got organized and everything. So what are the few tips that that you need to do to be an organized company, or, get out of this unorganized tag? We're not an unorganized industry. We're a technical organized industry. What are a few tips that you have for our members?
I think Sachin, rightly pointed out on all three of them is being innovative, quality conscious, and having appetite for risk. So these are three things I think I would like to repeat to anybody who is, getting into manufacturing, or from being a smaller company, trying to become an organized manufacturer. Not taking shortcuts, standing for what you believe is right, and then continuing to walk that path. I think this is exactly what would make somebody. There are no easy shortcuts in the manufacturing or contracting industry, as in any other industry, I'm sure. So, innovation is something which people don't look for. They just bring up Me Too products. And if you're doing a Me Too product, the result is also going to be Me Too. It is not going to be any different. So that's my advice. So if you don't walk a different path, you can't expect a different result.
Awesome. So it's pretty much, if Vinay has done it, he's setting the benchmark that even others can also follow, and we can also do it. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Mr. Prabhu, you shared a very, very interesting video. So I'm going to ask you a question based on that video, but let's show the viewers about this video. So that video kind of summarizes your whole technical, and I want you to actually share, because you shared this and you've spoken about it. Most of us in our trade, there are small companies who who don't appreciate the value of building a proper technical team. Maybe you start small, but then eventually you need. What do you think is the long-term impact of not paying attention to building a good quality technical team within your company?
Ajit, it is like this. When you are a small-scale entrepreneur, you are always afraid and you want to hold on to information. You don't want to teach your staff what to do. You don't want to give. You feel you have got some great secrets which are there, which you don't want to, give it to them, because they will turn out as competitors. Eventually, they will turn out to be. There is no doubt on that. But then let us look at it. I would look at it as a CSR activity. Even if we are going to train and people are going, even people from my companies have gone out and done. But then they will work with their own limitations. Like what Dinesh sir said, a project engineer would only know how to manage a project. It is difficult for him to evolve as a businessman. But then these things have to happen, and this is how things are bound to happen. But we at REVAC, we don't hold any information. Forget within ourselves. As I told, we have put so much of information on our website on kitchen ventilation. Anybody is free to access that. We have got a download section where it is pure information which is floating on the web, but we have consolidated and put it there. So unless people understand that what value we are bringing on to the project, they will never be able to understand why we are pricing it that way. There are because nothing comes free. When you want something, when you add something in your project, or when you want the way it is going to cost you. So that is why we would request people to say that, and even the people in the industry or in your company should know that what we stand for. In fact, there are a lot of places. My son is with me, and sometimes after the project, the order has come. He says now they are asking for the moon. I said, let us give them the moon this time. But that has taught us, to be more careful next time. And there are a lot of things between the lines which are not spoken, and then people ask, and there are a lot of changes which happen during a project, because we are a manufacturing contractor. We manufacture hoods, but at the same time we also take up projects. So we are a manufacturing contractor. So we get the best or the worst of both these, industries.
Yeah, but I like that. But I like the fact that you asked the question. That we all believe as small companies that we are holding on to a very big secret and we don't want to share. And people who've been there for a long time realize that it's all about sharing and building a great team together. Thank you very much.
In fact, I'll just to share a small thing. Once amoeba goes to God, or God tells amoeba, go and multiply yourself. Amoeba says, no, I am going to divide myself. God has the last laugh. You will multiply yourself by dividing yourself. This is how the industry grows. The division will happen, and that is how it will multiply. So we have to understand, how we take it forward, and we have to have a large heart at the best.
Yeah, I guess that's the big mindset change small entrepreneurs need to actually keep in mind. So great. So Nishant, you're non-metro, and there are a lot of our members you have seen over the last 9 months who have actually become from smaller cities. Do you see the opportunity now increasing outside the metros in smaller cities for manufacturing, or for our industry is expected to grow phenomenally, and the smaller towns are going to play a very big role? What's your take on that? Is that going to be a reality? Because you're based out of Indore and you've done extremely well. So what's your take on that, and what's the message across to all our members?
So Ajit, I believe when you're talking of manufacturing, a small town or big town is just just in your mind. There's nothing like that. Indeed, I do see a lot of advantage if you are not in tier 1 city. The cost of living is drastically low. You have access to resources much more easier. What is more important is that you should be completely aware of whatever is latest and whatever is happening across the globe. And that is where societies like Rata and ISHRE and ASHRE, all of them collaboratively for our industry, gives a lot of value addition. In the world of this technology where everything is accessible, you talk of anything, you can today make an atom bomb from YouTube. I mean, what are you talking of HVAC and R? So the information is all available. It's all about your passion, how you're driving it. And indeed, I draw it back to one of the examples of one of my clients who's based out of Ujjain. And I met him about 10 years back, and he was a very, very small manufacturer of some packaging material. And that time he said that in the next 5 years, I want to be a 500 crore industry. And believe me, today he's actually an MNC. He has a plant in China, in America, and India, at least in 10 places. He comes out of Ujjain. So it's all about your management and keeping yourself updated. I take a huge respect from him, and always keep inspired with such kind of people when I meet. But I see there's nothing like small town or big town, at least in the field of manufacturing. When you're talking of contracting, yes, it does make a difference where you are situated at, because till the time you have better connects, you would not get the worth of it. So, but as far as manufacturing is concerned, I don't think so. It's absolutely a stopper for anyone.
Yeah, and I guess from what you're saying, it probably might be to hold an advantage to you because you are at a lower cost place. Awesome, too good. Dineshji, you get to, as Vishal said, as a contractor, you'll always come in last. But I'm going to ask you, a very straightforward, upfront question. You also said, the world is not going to end tomorrow when you are answering Vishal. There's another trend that we have seen, a sign of desperation. Where post-COVID, the jobs have gone down and the cost of material has gone up. Copper, aluminum, everything has gone up by 10, 15%. And there seems to be now a desperate trend to undercut and to pick up jobs at any cost, come what may. What do you think is the impact of this for the customers who are building projects and where contractors are going out and just picking up jobs because they are now kind of desperate post-COVID? What do you think will happen, and what are the consequences of this?
I feel undercoating is only one part of the problem, right? Today, the project is conceived by customer, designed by consultant, managed by PMC, finally executed by contractor, right? So if you are saying I am undercoating, that means all the people above me are aware that I am undercoating and picking the job. So he knows the risk, what he is getting into, not just me. So they should also be aware, when you pay peanuts, what you get, right? Okay, so, and this desperateness amongst every field, every entrepreneur, it is there, whether you are a contractor, or you are a manufacturer, it doesn't make a difference. This pandemic has added much more bigger fear rather of the regular recessions. Because of restriction on movements, we contractors, basically, we need to move. For us, movement is the thing, but all others can be confined to a place. But we depend on movement of people, material, which other people face less. So that is where the people have to understand and empathize with contractors. Then only things can work in synergy. Contractor alone cannot do anything, neither the product manufacturer. So it is when we talk about a project, it is bringing synergy of product and contracting. So it is in the hands of the conceiver to ensure that all things fall in place. It is easy to blame that somebody is undercoating and picking up a job. It is his fate if he is undercoating. But people above that are aware that somebody is quoting less than the estimate. How do you expect such a person to deliver? When you are more knowledgeable, how are you accepting such an undercoat and then expect that contractor to perform? I don't understand this logic. Anyway, for my contracting fraternity, I would advise, please do your homework, learn costing properly, learn about the hidden line items in the contract, like your shifting, deputing a safety engineer, which are all not brought in the main bill of material, but you need to cost for it and distribute it on your line items. Or I request the other fraternity to bring in line items so that we cost for everything properly. That is all that I can say. My request, humble request to Rata, just give me a minute more, Vishal.
Sure.
Ajit, I'm thankful to Ajit and Vishal both. My knowledge about Rata, even though was very less, and when I got a call from Vishal for this, and I was surprised. After getting a mail from Ajit, I gone through the links that you sent. It was very mind-boggling to understand that Rata is as old as India, and a lot of things have been done. And last 4 years you have been aggressive, and I was happy to see the kind of programs that you have done, and especially for entrepreneurs, because we are used to most of the time being in history only towards knowledge dissemination, but here is a place where we can speak more so on not just technical but even on commercial terms. So I request Rata to empathize with contractors, ensure that you try to bring in a program which will support entrepreneurs to also become strong rather than become weak.
Yeah, he gets full support, right? There are three of us on the same screen right now. But amazing, Vishal. I think we've touched upon a nerve today for ventilation, and I think that was extremely important. So I like that whole approach, which was spoken about the manufacturing from Sachin, from that, getting organized and bringing in the filtration angle, a small town opportunity in manufacturing from Nishan, and of course Prabhu in his true sense actually kind of bought the whole kitchen ventilation, often ignored, and Mr. Dinesh was fantastic. He actually spoke his heart out to actually, I mean, kind of, which is something which we all speak about, and we never bring it out in the open. So a great event. I think it was fantastic. Over to you, Vishal.
No, I totally echo your words. That everyone is very frank and upfront, and that's what the whole purpose of having an evening like this on a Saturday evening, listening to some people who succeeded themselves as entrepreneurs. Because I think a true way a country can grow is only by having entrepreneurs do well and be comfortable in what they're doing well. So thanks, and I'm this time going to start in a different chart. I'm going to start with Dinesh first. So thanks, Dinesh, for taking time out and coming and sharing your thoughts, views, experience. Your organization is one of the strongest organizations in this field of HVAC contracting, and as I know you, your organization is stuck to its core strength of contracting, despite having हजार opportunities and people coming your way to get into other things like automation and refrigeration, etc., etc. You stuck to your core strength and done very well as an organization. So thanks again for coming in over here. Thanks, Nishant, for being over here. You're covering a whole spectrum of ventilation, as we know you, and you've always been a fantastic speaker on all platforms, technical and now today on a little bit of a non-technical platform also. Thanks for sharing your thoughts about both ducts and evaporative cooling and other things on air management, etc. So good to have you over here. Thanks, Mr. Prabhu. Thanks for sharing that video. I had also seen that earlier on LinkedIn. I loved it, and I've shown it to most of my design team in my office. That this is what I hope you're not doing. So, and as kitchen ventilation is surely very important as a business, I play a small role. Apart from being a contractor, we play a small role in kitchen ventilation from a duct hygiene perspective, and we've gone inside ducts and seen things, and frankly, would not want to get back to restaurants ever in our lives again after having seen some of the ducts and the condition they are in. Apart from it being a fire hazard. So, thanks for sharing your views and being upfront about this whole industry. Vinay, thanks. I know you were not very, very sure of coming and talking, but thanks for sharing your views on how us as an air conditioning trade have never taken filters seriously, and I totally acknowledge that. But I'm sure that is going to change ahead, and we would know that filters, both from an energy and more importantly a health and safety perspective, is a very important part of our daily lives across all applications, residential or commercial or healthcare, etc. So I'm pretty sure you'll have more and more engagement with this industry in the months and years ahead. Finally, thanks, Sachin. Thanks for being over here and sharing as one of one of the oldest companies in this field, or one of the first companies, pure Indian company coming in this field of manufacturing, and sharing your thoughts not just about products and technologies, but also about the manufacturing challenges in India and as to which technologies you see being lucrative or not. So I'm quite sure that all the delegates out there have appreciated you being over here. And finally, thanks to all the delegates, the participants, the listeners who have listened in live or who will be listening in the next few hours and days ahead. I'm pretty sure that you've gained knowledge, gained some awareness. We look forward to your feedback. And if you have any feedback and comments, do share them with us, because that will help us improve our programs in the coming weeks and months ahead. And we want to be more personalized and engage with you. Please share your feedback. And I hope you all had a good day. Have a good Saturday. Party well at home. Work from home, party from home, and stay safe. And
Thanks, thanks, Ajit. Thank you for
and
Thank you very much,
thanks
guys.
to Ajit and thanks to me. Cheers.
Thanks, Ajit.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.